Three best friends. Girls who had shared secrets, sleepovers, and years of growing up together. But by the time the sun came up the next morning, only two of them had come back. The third girl, 16-year-old Skylar Neese, had vanished. And at first, folks thought she'd ran off, as teenagers do that sometimes. At night in the Appalachian hills, it can get mighty dark. No, not city dark, where neon lights glow down every street. I'm talking country dark. The kind where the road disappears past your headlights and the woods stand there quiet like they know something that you don't. And teenagers around Morgantown, West Virginia, they spent plenty of nights driving those back roads, windows down, music loud, laughing about school and life like tomorrow was guaranteed. And on one hot July night in 2012, three girls did exactly that. But several months later, the truth crawled out of them Appalachian woods, and it was way uglier than anyone imagined. Because Skylar wasn't taken by a stranger. She was murdered by the two people she trusted most in the world. And the reason why? It's one of the coldest motives in modern true crime. They killed her simply because they decided they didn't like her anymore. Morgantown, West Virginia is the kind of place where people wave at strangers. Hey, how y'all doing? How's your mama and them? How's the family doing? It's a college town thanks to West Virginia University, but outside the campus area, it still feels like a small Appalachian community. Everybody knows somebody who knows your mama. Kids grew up together. Oh, and don't forget, word travels really fast. Skylar Annette Neese was born August the 10th, 1996, an only child. That meant she was the center of her parents' world. Her daddy, Dave Neese, worked assembling products for a company nearby, and her mama, Mary, worked as a surgical assistant. They weren't rich folks, but they loved their girl something fierce. That was more important than money. They were a true family with true love. And Skylar adored them right back. And friends, they described Skylar as sharp-tongued, but in a funny way. She was sarcastic, witty, and the kind of kid who could light up a room with one smart remark. Teacher said she was bright and curious. She loved to read. She loved listening to music. And, like most teenagers, her social life, it meant everything. By the time that she reached University High School, two girls had become her absolute closest friends. Shelia Eddy and Rachel Shoaf. Now, if you'd seen the three of them together back then, you would have sworn they were completely inseparable. They rode the school bus together. They spent weekends at each other's houses. They posted pictures online with captions about being best friends forever. Skylar once tweeted, "No one on this earth can handle me like Shelia Eddy and Rachel Shoaf." And that's how tight they seemed. Sleepovers. Oh, it was full of junk food. Late night gossip, mainly about boys. Teenage drama about boys in school and life. The kind of friendship most people remember from their high school. But like a lot of teenage friendships, things started getting complicated. You see, by early 2012, Skylar had begun noticing something really strange. Shelia and Rachel were spending more time together without her. Sometimes they'd whisper around school or stop talking when she walked up. And that makes somebody feel very uncomfortable and insecure. Skylar even posted a cryptic tweet months before she disappeared. You doing shit like that is why I will never completely trust you. Probably too bad that she didn't listen to her own words. Nobody knew it at the time, but that tension inside the friendship was slowly building towards something awful, horrendous, just plain terrible. Oh, it was one of them hot Appalachian summer nights where the air feels thick as syrup and you gotta breathe it through your teeth. Skylar had just finished a late shift at the Wendy's restaurant where she worked part-time. Her daddy picked her up around 10 p.m. and they went home like normal. They watched TV, they talked a little bit. Everything and everybody seemed just fine. But sometime after midnight, Skylar got a message from Shelia and Rachel. They wanted to go for a ride, smoke some weed, party. Just the three girls, just like old times. Now, Skylar's parents, they were asleep. So she did what a lot of teenagers do. She quietly opened her bedroom window and climbed out and walked across the parking lot toward a waiting car. Security cameras recorded the moment around 12:30 a.m. Skylar climbing into the back seat. Shelia Eddy was behind the wheel and Rachel Shoaf in the passenger seat. Three girls heading out into the night, laughing, talking, smoking. Just another teenage joyride. Except this one had already been planned in the most worst possible way. The next morning, Skylar's parents noticed she never came home. At first, they thought maybe she had stayed with a friend. But Skylar always checked in. She always called. And hours went by with no word. And by afternoon, panic started creeping in. So, they called the police. Investigators pulled the apartment complex security footage. That's when they saw Skylar leaving. Getting into the car with Shelia and Rachel. Now, both girls told detectives the same damn thing. They had picked Skylar up, they drove around for a little bit, then dropped her off near the end of her street. And she walked home. End of story, period. That's all we know. But something about that story, no, it didn't sit right. Because cameras never caught Skylar returning to the apartment. Not once. It was just like she vanished poof, into thin air. For months, the investigation stalled. Search teams combed through the woods, everywhere possible. Volunteers, they passed out flyers. Have you seen Skylar Neese missing since? Skylar's parents begged for answers on television, but the two girls at the center of it all, they kept insisting they knew nothing. Liars. What made it worse? Shelia Eddy acted almost carefree. That's disgusting. Posting smiling photos online, going to school dances. Wow. Even tweeting about Skylar like she was grieving. One message even read, "Rest easy, Skylar. You'll always be my best friend." Shall I repeat? Liar. Meanwhile, investigators noticed Rachel Shoaf behaving differently. She looked nervous during interviews. It was almost like the weight of something awful was crushing down on her. And eventually, that pressure did break. On January 2013, 6 months A happy year after Skylar vanished, Rachel Shoaf walked into a police station with her lawyer, and she told detectives she was ready to talk. Rachel confessed that the murder had been planned weeks before it ever happened. She and Shelia had talked about killing Skylar over and over and over. Meticulous plot against their so-called best friend. And you know, and I know, Skylar, she never seen this coming. Eventually deciding they would do it during a late night drive, they brought knives with them that night. And all the knives, they were hidden inside the car. They drove Skylar across the state line into rural Pennsylvania to a quiet stretch of woods near a place called Brave, Pennsylvania. They told Skylar they wanted to smoke some weed. So the three girls walked into the trees. Then Rachel said they looked at each other. They counted to 3, and then they started stabbing her. More than 50 disgusting wounds. Skylar had tried to run. She didn't make it very far. So detectives asked the question that everyone wanted an answer to. Why would you kill her? Rachel's response, it stunned them, to say the least. And these are police. They've heard and seen about everything. But this one here, it kicked their ass. Rachel said, well, we just didn't like her anymore. There was no big fight that night. No sudden rage. Just 2 teenagers deciding their friend was no longer welcome and worth keeping around. So they killed her. They planned her murder, and they carried it out. And then the two disgusting girls, they just went back to their normal life and acted like nothing ever happened. But always remember, we have a conscience. Obviously, it weighed on Rachel so bad, she had to tell it truthfully. Rachel Shoaf pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, and she got 30 years in prison. Shelia Eddy later pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison with parole eligibility after 15 years. I don't think she should have got any kind of eligibility, but hey, what do I know? Skylar's body was recovered where Rachel had said it would be. Her parents finally got the closure of bringing their daughter home. That's what you want to call it. Closure ain't the same thing as peace. Not when your child trusted the wrong people, who were supposedly her 2 best friends, and they had known each other their entire lives. In small Appalachian towns like Morgantown, folks tend to trust their neighbors. It's just the way it is. Kids grow up together. Parents assume their children are always safe with their friends. But this case kind of shattered that belief, not only in the Appalachian Mountains, but everywhere. Because on a summer night in 2012, Skylar Neese climbed out her bedroom window believing she was going on a harmless drive. But instead, she walked straight into a betrayal planned by the 2 girls she loved the most. And in the dark woods outside Brave, Pennsylvania, those trees stood witness to something that no best friend should ever do.